Then the one that
We'll just toss that in here then. We'll do it tonight.
Lots of stuff.
This should bring you right back to the old council days. You got this.
Yeah.
Let's see, where's this thing?
Okay. It's a different one. It's not like Monday night, you know. Does that mean you ready, Rich?
It's 6.
Okay. Yep.
We're going to call this meeting to order. A City Council special meeting on Thursday, June 16th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Mr. Yerke, will you please take roll call?
Yep. Councilwoman Garvey,
Present.
Councilman Brennan,
Present.
Councilman McCain,
Present.
Councilman Stokes,
Present.
and Mayor Sykes.
Mayor Sykes is absent. We're going to skip the department head comments and reports on the agenda and go to the conflict of interest declaration. Has any council member received information pertaining to or otherwise had any contact with any person regarding any items on the city council agenda? If so, please set forth the nature of the contact.
Council Stokes.
Yes.
I did receive verbal comments from one citizen regarding, I believe it's our first item, the Gulfview Apartments for the parking restrictions in place there, and does not negatively impact my research, and I'm still open for honest conversation.
Great. Anybody else? Okay, consent agenda, we have nothing listed. New business. We're going to go into public hearings. We have 4 tonight, so I'll list them out. This first public hearing is a deliberation decision on a request by Titanium Partnerships in care of Mason and Associates for a C3 planned unit development, Gulfview Apartments PUD. The PUD will allow for 186 apartment units, 15 2-bed and 2-bath units, 171 1-bed, 1-bath units in the clubhouse. And would anyone like to come up and speak for or against this?
Mr. President, Council, I'll start with kind of the summary, and you
Okay.
get that, and then we'll kind of go. Is that okay?
That's okay with me, yeah.
Okay. Mr. President, Council, so this is a rezone to a C3 PUD. It's approximately 5.72 acres. It's located on East 8th North Street, east of 2255 East 8th North, which is the sheriff's office, and west of 2775 East 8th North, which is the police department. Specifically on this, it's 174 patio-style apartment units with 12 units per building arranged around a parking lot. Landscape improvements throughout the site and the perimeter will utilize native grass, flowers, and trees maintained by the owner. The community outdoor seating park with barbecue area and 1,140 square foot clubhouse. It'll have pedestrian connectivity to public right-of-ways and resident amenities with walking trails throughout this. So you can kind of see a couple things here. As part of the planned unit development, the PUD application, the applicant is requesting a deviation from the following city standards. The city code requires the applicant to provide a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces. The applicant is requesting that only 260 out of 372 parking spaces be required based on providing 159 of the 170 units are 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And then it says, just a note that the proposed clubhouse will provide 6 total parking spaces. The applicant is requesting a maximum height deviation from 30 feet to 40 feet to allow for a 3-story configuration. I think that, let's see, The applicant completed a traffic impact study regarding the proposed project in April of 2021, which was revised in January 2022 per the applicant. The study determines that all of the intersections studied will not be negatively affected by the proposed development, and the intersections were, I'm not going to read all the different intersections, but that's what they were. Let's see, just kind of a couple things, a couple maps to kind of look at on here. So here's the proposed property. It's you can see that it was in commercial, so that's why they're asking it to go to a well, it's you can have you can have this in a commercial, so that's why it's like that. The which I will hit the wrong button. I forgot. Okay, oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, sorry. I left my mouse in my. There we go. The current zoning is a C3, so that's kind of where we can pick from that. I think we can start. You kind of have everything. I'll kind of just put. Here's kind of what the plan development. Mr. President, Council, usually we have the applicant come up and explain something that they have, and then kind of wait for questions after that. So then kind of what we'll do is then we'll have our public input, and then because then the applicant can come back and respond to some of the questions if you have some. So that's usually how we run those, if that works for you.
Mr. Keaty, is the applicant present?
Should be,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
Would you like to come up and give us a summary? And
Sure, thank you.
So I'll have you sign in, please. Yep. And I'll do that when we're done here.
Just print, or how do you want it?
If you just print and put your
usually address, right?
print, I think I probably have your address, but you can just print your name and everything.
Yeah, the address is on the picture. Okay. Mr. President, council members, thank you, for your service. It's hard to get people to do a public job, in my opinion. Anyway, I appreciate that. Probably the biggest thing that's occurred since we had a planning and zoning hearing is we ran into significant comments about parking. We had a few other questions that wanted to be clarified. One of those was along the canal zone, there will be a fence there running the whole length of the property. So that is part of the plan at this point. In our discussions with Brock and the planning people, there was a great interest in retaining the walking path around it. And we discussed how to get the parking up to an acceptable level. That would be something that they were looking for. So previously we were at 186 units. We've removed some of the buildings. We're now at 174 units, 15 of which are 2 bedrooms. So we've dropped the size of the project down to 174 units. We've increased the parking spaces now. Our target, Brock asked us a target of 1.5 for singles and 2 for doubles is what the target he asked us to meet. And we're 1 space short of that. We've been able to obtain quite a bit more parking in the process that we're doing. The only way we can actually get that 1 more space is to change the walk-around path, which is something that we have been strongly encouraged to keep. So we're trying not to do that at this point. Other than that, the development, the height development fits within what your normal codes would be, not commercial codes. So the height's not, we're not asking for something you wouldn't have in a residential area. We're asking for something you wouldn't have in a commercial area. Well, any other questions, any other things I'm missing here? I would think so. So I have skilled help here if there's any technical questions. Basically, we're trying to make a nice development that fits with the community and is useful for the need that we have in this area. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do it in cooperation, and we're trying to make it a workable deal. So I think we've come very, very close. As I said, we're 1 space off, Rich, if I remember correctly, we're 1 space off at this point. So we're that close. I can get it, but to do so, we eliminate the walking trail. And Brock strongly encouraged me not to eliminate the walking trail. So that's where we are on this. We appreciate the hearing. We know the change is difficult, and we know that there's been questions. We think we've answered most of those questions, If not, I think we've actually answered all those questions, although I'm sure there'll be more to go. So, any questions for me before I leave? Before I step down, I should say.
Council Stokes.
Councilman Brandon?
Sir, thanks for taking the time to be here and explain the project to us. You mentioned you've downsized already, and I apologize, I don't think I got to see your very original.
Not a problem. It was 186 previously.
A couple of concerns that I have. If you don't mind, I'll just kind of run through them really quick. I have to make sure I find the right page easily, but one of the documents here says that you intend to, that it's a 3-year plan for you. Sorry, that you want 3 years to basically break ground, and then if you can't do it by then, you want a 3-year extension?
That is that's meant to match your policy. It's not our intention to take that long.
Okay.
So the build process for this is about a 2-year build process. So that's a rough time frame.
In phases or just all at once?
The groundwork will have to be done all at once, because one of the things we're doing here that is a benefit to the city of Mountain Home is that the water mains stop. There's water mains here and here, but they don't connect in the city. And so we're going to connect those water mains so that you have additional flow capability. Thank you. So we'll have to do the groundwork all at once. But yeah, we'll roll the rest of it as we go. Then the other concern, and I'm just parroting what Brock has told me, is that he would like us to take a little bit of time in there too, because you guys have some total count numbers in the city here on how many buildings you can build at any given time. And so he wanted us to sort of roll that a little bit. So he's thinking that 2 to 3 year windows where he'd like to see us. That pretty well fits with what we're planning on doing.
Okay.
So that's sort of how we tried to massage that.
Rich, can you confirm that that's standard language, 3 years and a 3-year extension?
I'd have to look. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but I would imagine.
I don't remember.
I don't remember that. I have to look. And
All
see.
I remember is 1 year with a 1-year extension
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
But
to where, but that's just something we need to find out, to look at.
Mr. President,
Councilman.
Council, I would think because it's a phased project, if they can, once they kind of have things going, because I know that if we're looking at like Morning View, I mean, it was approved a long time ago, but obviously more than 3 years ago, but they've been phasing things in. So I think that's probably where it is. If no ground was broken, it would be the 1 year, like Councilman McCain said.
That's where I was going with
But
that.
I think that they're probably fine with that, doing it this way with the phase, as long as the phases keep moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Can I continue?
Absolutely.
Sir, I don't even know how to describe what page it is. It's the overall blueprint plan here. I
Yes.
circled something in red where you talk about, I'll just read it just for the record, I guess,
Yeah.
and help so you understand what I'm talking about. Paragraph number 3 says, irrigation water has been provided from City of Mountain Home Municipal Irrigation District in compliance with Idaho Code 31-3805 subsection B. The planned unit development will be entitled to irrigation water rights and will be obligated for assessments from the Mountain Home Municipal Irrigation District.
Correct. So what my understanding of that is as well is this: we are not taking water from the canal. So we don't have canal rights for that matter.
Sure.
So any watering we do has to come from the city. Okay. One of the reasons they require us to do near zero landscaping is so we have minimal water usage, which is to our benefit as well. We want to have that. To do that, we have to pay, there's a fee to connect, and so we have to pay the fees to have that water right. So that's all we're saying.
I guess it's because of the districts involved, it sounds a little confusing to me. I can't speak for the others. But irrigation water, I automatically think of the canal, right? The irrigation
Right.
district, rather than just irrigating rights, to
Yeah, so I understand, and the language doesn't bother me as much if we want to change it to irrigating rights, I don't care. We were responding to the water department saying, look, here's what you need to do because you're going to have to provide water. For the landscape around the barbecue area, for example, well, there'll be some grass there.
Okay.
So,
And then, just for the record,
Yep.
if, I I don't know how these documents work here, but it needs to be struck out where it talks about the City of Mountain Home Municipal Irrigation District. We don't, that's non-existent.
Yeah.
Mr. President, Council, this is a preliminary plat, so we can certainly get that changed in that
Okay.
language. And so we'll make sure that the standard language is in there, but they do have to pay
The water rights.
the water rights fees for those.
It's standard language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we can get that, that's easy to get fixed.
Okay, let's see. The parking stuff that we've talked about. One thing that's mentioned in here is you're trying to acquire the city street to count your parking spaces.
So we're not trying to acquire it. What we were told that we had to do in counting is we had to measure and take the city street as potential parking. We don't anticipate that that'll be normally used. We anticipate that that's, okay, we're having 8 people over for dinner and we're gonna get 4 cars out there, which is one of the reasons you ask for more than 1 space per single unit. So we're at almost 1.5 spaces, 1.499 spaces, but that includes the temporary parking. That is not dedicated to us by any stretch of the imagination.
I did some math there, and I scratched it out while I was sitting next to a river here. So, but 241. Where did I get 241 from? 174 units. 241. It was really like 1.38 spaces.
Councilman Brennan,
I should have wrote how I did that math.
can I interrupt? I think those 19 spaces that you're talking about are on East 8th Street.
They are, I just counted the
Correct.
19 and they are.
Correct.
So, yeah, in eliminating those 19 stalls from the street, when it talks about off-street parking, you're down in the 1.3 spaces per unit.
I don't have the math either, but yes, I'm not going to argue that particular issue. That's literally, we were instructed to count spaces in the last meeting and measure them and use that as part of the numbers. So that's all we did. We just responded.
There's a few reasons, and I don't want to just sit here and beat around the bushes. I don't like the on-street parking for your development. Several reasons, but one of which is that is the #1 corridor for emergency vehicles in the city right there. So, if I may, you've got the sheriff's office, the police department, the Elmore County Rescue, right? Even search and rescue coming out of there, and the ambulance district, as well as a fire truck, all within that little area right there, coming out on both sides of that development. I'm sorry, it could go either way, but the cars, if cars are parked on the road there, it's going to be extremely hard to see, fast-moving police vehicles or whatever. It's going to create a choke point in my mind for the visualization of the emergency services that are going down through there.
I can understand that. Let's assume that we take the walkway out and we get 1.5 off the road. People are still going to be parking on the road. If you have a group over or anybody else, by nature, people are going to end up parking on the road.
It will, but as soon as we allow it, we can then no longer restrict it. So at any given time, this council could decide to make that a no overnight parking.
Correct. I can see, yes, I can see that.
Right, we have a golf course there, and people park on the road. They don't typically park up that high, though.
Okay.
They park a lot lower. So, should the city want to restrict that because of a more commercial environment, right? Not residential, but not talking zoning. I'm talking like true, like just business. Then we have that ability. But as soon as we approve it,
Yes.
as part of your planned unit development, now we've lost that ability to restrict parking on the road.
So, I understand that, and what, I'm speaking a little bit out of house here then, what I would say is take those units out of the count, and I would request the units that we have developed be approved as, without that number, so that you have that future ability.
So you want us to go from a 2.0 requirement down to a 1.3?
No, so all the 15s have 2, okay, currently. This process has been a long process for us. Okay, so when I first started, it was before even Brock came here. It's been a long process. And I was told at that time, and you're not bound by this, but so you'll understand where I've started.
Sure.
I was told at that time that a single bedroom, they thought they could get one unit in one parking space as long as we had some extras for the clubhouse. Brock made it very clear early on that wasn't going to fly, okay? And we need to come up towards, and he was not adamant about the 1.5, but he said we need to come towards 1.5 on singles, and we had to stay at 2 on 2 or more bedrooms. And that was within what he thought was a normal practice in an apartment scenario.
Normal in our city or another city?
I don't know if you have, I don't really know how much you have here, but I'm just going up. I'm recalling what Brock has said here. It's also in other cities very typical that 1.5 would work for a single. So I can go to 1.5. I have to take out the walkway, and I've received significant pushback on the walkway. So I'm trying to say, okay, how can we make this work appropriately? That's what I'm trying to say. And so I've reduced the size. I've reconfigured, and I'm trying to hit the target very close. But I understand what you're saying, and I would not be opposed to you saying that the street parking can't be in the PUD, so that you have future ability to do whatever you need to do on that if it's a problem. I would do the same thing if I were you. That's just me.
Can I ask really quick, just for the record, are you the developer or are you speaking for the developer?
I'm the developer.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you own the ground?
Our LLC does, yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to...
I'm the principal.
Okay.
I'm the principal. And I have the fortune of having our engineering team here as well, so we can get technical details if we need them.
And so with the emergency vehicle hub right there, how do you feel like the residents would react to the 24-hour-a-day sirens that are going off in that area?
So it depends. So when I was in college, I lived for a while on an apartment overlooking Pacific Coast Highway, and which is 24/7 full-time in trucks. It was worthless, but in 2 weeks I didn't hear it anymore. And so to me, I don't view it as a big hurdle. To some people, it would be a bigger hurdle. What we've got right now, and this is geared towards, so my conversations with, for example, with the Singaporean Airmen Contingency, with their leadership, they don't have an issue with it. They think this is going to really help them. They don't want to be in the same situation that we're sending lots of people from non-home to live in Napa or Caldwell or Boise. And particularly with fuel prices the way they're going, this becomes much more attractive. So yes, there's a negative, but there's a lot of positives too. We believe the positives outweigh the negatives. So.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Council President?
Councilwoman Brady?
Quick question. How much of the walkway would you have to take out to make it at least the very minimum 1.5? So you wouldn't have to take it all out?
We wouldn't, but without it being able to go around, I don't know enough on the engineering side. Well, do you think we can maneuver a walkway enough to pick up another?
Probably wouldn't remove the entire south boundary.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. We would have to move, ultimately we'd have to move the houses to the boundary, and it wouldn't be a roundabout anymore. It would be good.
So the reason why I say that is I directly think of the Caribou apartment units up South 5th West. They only have one spot per unit, and it's quite congested.
Yeah.
And they're 2-bedroom units, so I understand you're doing the 2, but it's just cars everywhere.
So we only have 15 2-bedroom units. All the rest are singles.
Yeah.
And so that'll change that equation quite a bit. It's going to be busy, but it's not, I don't believe, based on what I've seen elsewhere, but I don't believe it will be overly busy. We're not going to allow them to keep RVs and extra vehicles on the property. They're going to be.
Have a self-monitored HOA or property
We'll have
manager?
property manager on site.
Okay.
And so we'll have property manager on site, and we'll have conditions for parking. So we will control parking internally. This is not something we're going to just leave open shotgun.
Right.
So.
And I have to agree, I think parking on 8th Street would be terrible. I mean, we have the walking path on both sides. It's very highly trafficked for going to Walmart, going out of town, going to freeway. I think parking on 8th Street would not be good up that direction on the hill. So maybe we can work around that.
Yep.
I like the 1.5 parking though, not the 1.3.
Okay.
Councilman Koenig?
Yes, thank you, Council President. You've got a 30-foot drop in less than 700 feet here. Are you planning on terracing out individual spaces, or just exactly how are you planning on mitigating water control in here?
Building unit spaces will be terraced. So,
Okay.
so some of these units, well, there's a picture of the units, but all the units will not be on the same elevation. The
So
units,
you're going to terrace them all down to where you're not going to just terrace out?
Correct.
Just individual little pieces for each one?
no, it's going to be terraced. And that's one. We'll also have retaining pond as well, of course. So water retention's been calculated into this.
Okay, and then you said there's 174 units here?
Correct.
And out of 174 units, your traffic study doesn't think at all there are going to be any problems at 8th Street and American Legion with people heading to Walmart?
Correct. So
It's already a nightmare.
I would not even argue that, but we did the traffic study, which fortunately the gentleman, the engineer that did the traffic study has done multiple traffic studies here in the city, and including on American Legion. And we based the last numbers, the reason there's a revision date is we based the last numbers on the 186 units. So we're coming down from there. But it's like a 90-page report. It has turn counts and traffic counts of every possible movement beyond what you'd imagine. And they grade things by how they rate and change things. And there's no red flags at all. Not a single red flag.
That's surprising, but I'm not the engineer for that, to where, and I agree also that I would not be happy with taking parking spaces on the streets. No, that's for everybody's use, not just for your project use, to where.
Well, and to be fair, we weren't trying to make them exclusively ours. We're just saying they were available. We're responding to the last hearing is all we're doing.
Right, but as Councilman Brennan said, that if we do say, okay, yeah, we'll go with this, then we've kind of given you 19 spaces on the street that if we decide we don't want parking on the street, it's going to be kind of tough to take away.
And I absolutely agree with that. So I'm no disagreement at all with that.
Thank you.
Council Six.
Councilman?
What was the, Mike, maybe you know, what was the method of the traffic counting? Did they actually lay the electronic counters down, or was it a person counting?
There's probably a person counting.
President, so that's on your last, so if you look at the last 3 pages of your executive summary.
It's typed in engineering and you go.
Yep, it is. So it is, you're right. So they based it off of the ITE trip generating manual, so so they used a they might, I don't know if they did any of those, which that's what everybody really uses with that, and not just counts, so.
So there weren't even eyes on site for the traffic impact
I
study?
don't believe that there were, so.
I don't know enough to tell you about
I
that,
couldn't,
but he had data from,
Yep, so some of these.
he had specific data.
If the second page says traffic counts at the study area intersections were collected on January 26, 2021, so they were collected. These volumes were reviewed and compared with historical traffic counts to determine the adjustment factors. So for this different seasons, and also taking into effect COVID. So they did have eyes on site.
What does it mean further in that paragraph where it's like 1.10 in the AM and peak, or PM peak hours? 1.10, 1.50.
I couldn't tell you.
The summary page of the traffic report gives you an analysis.
The big piece is to pay attention to the level of service, that LOS. So nothing stayed. East 8th and 18th stayed at level A. From 2021 to 22, level C, it stayed the same in the level B. So And even when we go to the build-out year of 2025, the level of service stayed the same at each of those intersections as well.
Rich, would there be any, I always lose my sticky note with that awesome phrase. Councilman Burr reminded me in the past.
Which phrase?
The type of cost sharing for the traffic circle that will be up there that will benefit everybody on using East 8th North.
We don't have. So the,
You know what I'm
so
talking about?
impact. Council,
Go ahead, Mr. Keating.
So impact fees would be.
We have to pay for that.
Would be paying for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what growth is taking care of, was impact.
Council, any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you and then agree with the council, the parking on East 8th, I don't like it. I'm sure we'll hear during the public hearing about that, and then the spaces per unit will probably come up. You're in a weird spot here. You have the sheriff's office, police department, search and rescue, extrication, all sorts of things are there.
To me, that's an advantage, is we can mark it as a safe location for the.
And the jail, you have the jail. So with that, I'll ask you to take a seat and then we'll do a public hearing.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Council, before we start, just a couple things I want to make sure we get on record. That notifications were sent to 2 property owners within 300 feet. Notification was sent out to the 26 public entities that we always send them out to. It was published in the Mountain Home News, and the public hearing was posted correctly, and they've received no letters of opposition nor in favor of the rezone. So, and before we start, this is kind of for everybody. This is what the public hearing rules. This is what we read at the council meetings and everything else. So no duplicate.
Really quick, can I?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on the record, that's true, but never mind.
Yeah, that was a
That's
wrong.
That's the next one.
I'll bring that up when we get
Sorry
there.
for interrupting.
No duplicate testimonies, no yelling of rude behavior, no personal attacks, 3-minute time limit for each person, and you cannot give your time to somebody else. So that's kind of it. So.
And Mr. Akiti will keep you on time, so if you want to come up and talk, sign and.
And you can sign in afterwards. We can move this way, so when you're done, you can sign in if you want to. Just make sure you state your name before you start.
Would anyone like to speak in favor or against?
My name's Liberty, and I live on Trail Ridge Court, because I've told you I have to tell you where I live. I do have a question on the traffic study, because did that say it was done in January of 2021? That's still when we're in a lockdown. People are still working at home. So how does that give us a proper study for, because the last meeting that I attended for a traffic study was in like March of 2020. Well, yeah, of course everybody's going to be home. So I have to wonder how accurate that is for the traffic study, because that's only 9 months into the pandemic. We were still in lockdown by then. So I kind of have to wonder about that. And then, of course, there's always the water issue. There's not enough. We're running out of it. And we just don't, so I don't have any problems with the property per se, but we don't have the resources for 171 apartment buildings. I don't know if you've checked out our healthcare lately, but when can you get an appointment within 3 months of your time? Because we don't have healthcare here. Desert Sage and St. Luke's are trying to keep up, but they can't handle the amount of people that we're bringing in, all in this mass group of, 1,000 homes within the last 2 to 3 years? And we don't have, the last high school levy didn't pass. We have, one of the builders sat right here and she says, oh, we have about 2,000 to 3,000 students who are going to be coming into our education. Where are we going to put 2,000 and 3,000 extra students here in Mountain Home? There's just no way. And I don't know what the impact fees are for this, but let's start charging some impact fees that are actually meaningful, that it doesn't just get passed down to us, because from what I understand, your impact fees are almost like virtually nil almost. So we need to start charging those fees, because as you mentioned, you're going to probably need some more fire department, you're probably going to need some more police, you're probably going to need some more ambulance, something there with this huge amount of influx of people that we're getting. And we don't have the water, we don't have the health care, we don't have the education, we don't have a pool, we don't have a rec center, we don't have a movie theater, we don't have a bowling alley, we have nothing here. I think we need to start concentrating on our community first before we start trying to pull in all these other people. We need to focus on Mountain Home rather than, oh, let's cater to the people that we want to bring to Mountain Home. Let's start with us first. Because we have nothing here for the people. And that's my 2.5 minutes, so thank you. Thank you.
Can you change the other slide, Mr. Yuki? Which one? Overlay? This one?
No, the other one?
This one?
With the top, one of the top ones?
Oh, it was like this one of these.
Carl Vaughn, I live at P.O. My residence is 2065 North Haskett. My address is P.O. Box 1384, Mountain Home. First of all, I'd like to commend you for the things that you did change. We had a long conversation after the planning and zoning. Your forefathers designed all this as a commercial zone. This is why we're running into this issue. They've seen what was going on when we did the long-term planning, and ITD has issued several grants, on improvements of the canal, the roadway, and everything else, because you wanted to keep that as commercial. Changing it from commercial C3 to residential, you just got to be ready to go the other way on homes that are over by Legacy Park and say, okay, now we're going to build a commercial zone over here, and you're resident. You're changing things. So it's not fair to everybody else. You do it for one guy and not somebody else. I do want to commend them about the parking, but the national average from DOT is 1.88, and I sent that to Buck. That's 1.88 vehicles per household, and Idaho is actually higher than that. He was saying 1.2. He wanted to have one car at a one-bedroom place. But anybody's been in the military, if you're going TDY, which happens a lot at 6 months, someone's taking your house and they're going to watch your house for you. Oh, they're going to be parking in this spot because you left your car there. So that's where Caribou and all these other ones in Lincoln Square, we have all this problem, because when someone goes TDY, they don't take their car with them. It's sitting there, then you're watching their house and there's another car. So I'm avid opponent of the parking has got to be there. 6 spots per the clubhouse. Let's see, you get to invite 4 friends. Then everybody else, again, there's no parking for anybody in the clubhouse. Me, just my personal opinion, walking path is a smoke. That's just blowing smoke. Across the street, 60 feet across the road, there's a 4.5 mile walking path. It goes all the way over to Legacy Park. Why would they need a small one? I don't even think it's a half mile going all the way around. To me, it just eliminated it. The main walking path that we have in Mountain Home is right across the street, starts at the golf course, which is right across the street. I've lived here 30 years. Some of you have been here longer. When the mission changes, so do the people. So if Singapore pulled out next year when we have a legislature change, we're going to have a lot of housing again. Every time we don't know what the mission is, it constantly changes. So all these builders that keep saying, we're doing this for the base, they're doing it for the base. None of them are tagged onto the base. The base isn't telling them, hey, we're going to give you, supplemental checks to build these things. They're all developers, including myself. We're all out to make a profit. That's what it's all about. But we're going to go back to the housing. Mr. McCain was there in that, when the base went through a change, we lost the bombers and tankers. Oh, man, we had ample housing again for 2 years until the mission gets reset. So I see we're going to have a lot of housing, and if the mission changes again, we're going to have a lot of empty houses again. Let the economy, determine what we need. So don't let the contractors use the base as the excuse. If it's a base, everybody knows changes its mission all the time. That's it.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Anybody else?
Hi, council members. Misty Pierce, Donna subdivision. I'm sorry, I always get that wrong because I used to live on a Donna street. I went to the public hearing on May 16th and I asked about traffic and law enforcement. I agree with you, Councilman Brennan. That can be a catastrophe when we have 5-6 vehicles that need to respond and there's side street parking. This area, as Mr. Vaughn stated, is zoned for commercial use, and it should probably stay that way. The fact that there's so many grants in that area, and he mentioned at the last meeting that there was like 3 or 4 different grants that have been used to keep that area commercial, light industrial. If you violate those, if they haven't expired, us citizens don't want to pay that price. because the consequences of violating a grant could end up as grant fraud, and it can cause debarment from future use of future funding, receiving future funding, administrative recoveries of funds, civil lawsuits, and criminal prosecution. The City of Mountain Home residents cannot afford that if we overstep on grants. My other questions were, we're turning commercial into residential when we have no jobs. And just like the First Lady, we're bringing all these people in and causing it to be a bedroom community when we have nothing for the citizens that are currently here. A question was asked at the last meeting about EDUs, I believe is how you say it. And Mr. Yurkiti did say that this one would probably put you guys over. And I know Mr. Councilman Brennan has expressed trying to find out how much growth that has been approved versus what the state allows. I think we've exceeded that, especially with the EDUs being all taken up now. So I'm just worried about that. As for controlled parking, I live right near Escotio and Day Meadows apartments. They have a limit on vehicles as well. And both cul-de-sacs right behind that off of Tyndall are used by those occupants for their overflow parking. They're not supposed to, but both of us on those cul-de-sacs, both sides, because I join with those, we're always having problems with people parking from those apartments in our streets. So I just want to say that you can try to control it. People are going to do what they want to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Misty. Would anyone else like to get up and speak?
I'm Stephen Williams, and I would like to follow up on some comments that Councilman Brennan made in regards to the irrigation water. On the right side of the plat, there's a section for notes, and it actually uses the term entitled and water rights. I mean, those are very strong terms, and in my personal opinion, sound binding. I would just request that that language be reviewed and make sure that appropriate terminology is in place. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Stephen.
Mr. Williams, can you state your address, please? Can you state your address real quick, so they can get it on record?
2250 Northeast Golf Course Rim Road.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to get up and speak?
Hi, my name is Brendan McCarthy. I live at 890 East 14th North. I'd just like to start out that I originally attended the planning and zoning meeting when this first was proposed. I'm trying not to duplicate, testimony and everything, but I know the biggest thing that proponent against that I was for was the parking issue. It doesn't seem like it's a very good idea that we're allowing parking, especially on 8th, with it being the emergency corridor and everything. Something that was also brought up in planning and zoning is that, what about the ACHD parking? Are we going to start monitoring that if they're going to start using just because it is down the street from that? I was also concerned about the impact on that intersection with 8th Street, especially with the roundabout and everything proposed on that. So, again, not trying to duplicate or anything like that, but I think really the biggest thing is the parking. I know that they want a walking path, but it's kind of, it doesn't make sense to have this 1.33 cars per unit where it really should be up towards that 1.8. It just doesn't seem like we can, justify that and allow that kind of spillage, if you will, onto 8th Street. Now, because it seems like, well, that's a public road, now we're allowing the developer to use that to basically, keep the project going, if you will. So, anyway, just wanted to keep it short and just kind of bring those up. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks. And anyone else like to come up and speak for or against this? With that, I'll close the public hearing. Council, what would you like to do? Go ahead, Mr. Executive.
Council, one of the questions, and I'm going to answer your question that you had was something, and it was one of the questions that one of the people had. So on page 2 at the beginning, when it said the 2021 existing traffic studies, it was collected on January 26, 2021. Well, after reading this a little more closely, and as I'm going through it and doing that. So when we look at that, it's these volumes were reviewed and compared against historical traffic counts to determine and adjust the factors needed to account for the seasonal variations from January to the summer months. So, and then also, and/or the COVID-19 impacts. So, the 1.1 was added, was multiplied to the AM and PM peak hours for 8th and 18th intersection, and the 1 point times, and it was multiplied by 1.5 in the AM and 1.25 in the PM for American Legion, and then that's what those numbers are.
That's the adjustment factor?
That's the adjustment factor.
Okay.
Mr. Urquidy? So does that mean that 1.1 is a 10% increase and then a 1.5 is a 50% increase in traffic?
That would be what they probably would have added. They would have multiplied those by that, so the 1 takes care of how many are there, and then the 0.5 is the increase.
Okay.
It's from my math that I teach the kids.
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Brennan?
Just a question on procedure, and if Paul's listening, I want to make sure we get this right.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
I'd like the opportunity to address some of the concerns that were brought up.
Absolutely.
But I also think that the applicant gets the final word. Is that right?
He does have a chance to rebut.
He gets to have rebuttal from the testimony.
Is that after my comments? Paul?
No, it should be before once.
Before my comments? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and once all the testimony is received, he has rebuttal.
Okay, so my comments do not count as testimony, right?
Unless you're asking him a question.
My intent is simply to...
And no, you're not testimony.
Okay. My intent is to just address some of the concerns brought up by the citizens.
Yes, you could do that in your deliberations unless you want him to specifically address something of it.
Council, it sounds like we have the applicant come back up, give a rebuttal or summary, and then we deliberate.
Thank you.
Rebuttal sounds so controversial. So one question, I forgot your name, gentlemen. Was it the national average is 1.88 per household?
Yes, and then Idaho is actually higher. There's more vehicles.
There's more vehicles, I understand.
Per person.
I want to make that very clear. 1.88 is a household. That includes all the houses. That includes all the apartments, the 3 bedrooms, the 5 bedrooms. Doesn't matter. That includes that number. And Idaho is going to be a little higher because there's other vehicles as well. So, okay, if you moved it to 2, but you're including residences of all types, then I would maintain a single bedroom studio fits into a 1.5 category fairly easily. We're not at 1.88, but we're certainly not that far away if you include all the other types of residences that sit in the state. So I don't think that we're out of line with that. From what I've heard, it's very clear to me, I think made it clear to Councilman Brennan, I'm quite willing to make sure that the street is carved out. That's not an issue to me. And if you're not concerned about a walkway, we can absolutely maneuver things around and see what we can do to make it 1.5. I'm going to tell you it's going to be very difficult to get anything more than that. I'm happy to do that if I could. I'd be very surprised if I can get much more out of the land. It's just the land's not there particularly. I would like to make a general comment, having gone through having lived in a couple places that were dealing with growth. And you guys probably are far more intimately aware of this than I am. The Singaporean contract is a 15-year contract. It's not like it can disappear easily. this base is one of two bases that have the ability to have advanced training in the nation. There aren't any other options. Neither one is on any list at this point. Mountain Home recently signed another 15-year contract with another country for training. And according to everything that's been said, we've got 2 battalions of heavy infantry moving this way as well over the next 2 years. Don't know how those will all shake out, okay? But I do know that what will happen is this. If you have a city that's growing, the infrastructure gets improved by the numbers. It doesn't get depressed by the numbers. It gets improved. People say, oh, I can do this now because there's enough to support it. And that, it's a job for you guys. I wouldn't want to try to do it. But there's a critical mass that allows these things to happen, that allows you to improve the quality of life for everybody around. And I think part of that's wandering through the pain along the way. I've seen it happen in Bend, Oregon. I saw it happen in Bozeman, Montana. Those woods chased me out when they started getting more than what I started with on a little ranch. And so I understand that difficulty, and I understand the concern about it. But I think there's a bright light on the other side, and it's not a train. So it's my theory there. As far as the irrigation comment, whatever the wording is right for the city water, that all we want is a water service that allows us to sprinkler the land. We don't, I'm not looking to gain any supernatural powers out of this. This is not our goal at all. So I would maintain that I could tell you, and I will tell you, that we can exceed the 1.5, meet or exceed the 1.5. We'll do our best to get more, but we'll meet or exceed that. On single bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, we'll do 2, and we'd eliminate the street stuff. That would be, all that's within a doable picture economically and reasonably. I think we can be there in that place. Don't know, I'm probably forgetting something, but once again, thank you, Mr. President, council members, I appreciate the time.
Thanks. Council.
Councilman Staples.
Councilman Wren.
If you'd so allow me, I'd like to address a few of the concerns brought up. I guess by name, Liberty, you talked about that we need to work on us first, right, before we bring in others. I think in my perspective, in order for the things that you and all the other citizens want, we need more citizens to pay for it. For the things that most of us want, we can't afford it right now with how much everything costs. Mr. Yerke could probably attest that we went out for a bid on a project, estimating it to return about $1.5 million.
1.5, 1.7, yeah.
And it came back at $4.1 million. We just can't afford it. So the way we start to afford those things are to increase our base and get more taxes. Don't let that sound like I'm pro all growth no matter what. That's not the case. But in order to get some of those things, we definitely have to have more people to help share that cost of that expense. The one thing I wanted to address too, which most of my comments, I want the citizens to know, is it's not really my opinion. It's I believe it wholeheartedly, but it's what our statute says, or our ordinances, is that several of you brought up the fact that we're changing this from commercial to residential. And that's true, but in terms of zoning, an apartment complex, right, is seen as commercial. And so it fits the way the ordinance, and I'm sure that's not just our city, that's probably standard procedure, is an apartment complex falls under commercial zoning and not under residential. Again, maybe not my opinion. I think a residence is a residence, but they're not asking to change the zoning. They're simply asking for a few variances for our planned unit development. Carl's comments of a 1.88 national average, with more being in Idaho, specifically the comments about the military. As a military member myself, and once was a young airman, I can attest that even though you might live in a one-bedroom place, a lot of them will have more than one vehicle, even if it's a car and a motorcycle. But very few people, especially military, who have a regular steady income, limit themselves to one vehicle. That doesn't mean all of them don't, but I think a vast majority of them will have something else, whether it's a motorcycle or a car or a big truck or anything. And I'm glad, sir, you brought it up that yes, we are anticipating a whole nother foreign mission here. So the one's not going anywhere, I don't think, and there's another one coming. So I guess I don't exactly know where I'm going with that, but the military does bring in a lot of vehicles for sure. Misty, I talked about the commercial zoning rules and the amenities that you mentioned. One thing I did want to bring up is the EDU discussion. With a one-bedroom, one-bathroom apartment, is that typically, I don't think we finalized our discussion on EDUs, but as it stands now, is that limited? A one-bedroom, one-bath is one EDU?
Right now that it is, with the new one, it'd be a 0.5 because it's going to have less, it will use less water.
That's what
we just
agreed upon up here? Okay.
It depends, probably, I think it was 1.5, sorry.
You go ahead, Mr. Ricky.
I think it was 1.5 if it didn't have the kitchen piece, but I think it was, if it has the unit, it was a little bit more. I think if it didn't have, it was just like, what I want to say, an apartment that didn't have laundry and things like that. They had their own laundry separately. Those are some things to look at, and I don't have that off the top of my head, but that's what we've been talking about. So it will be less than one.
So would these one-bedroom, one-bath have their own laundry facilities?
They're not planning on having a laundry facility there. We're planning on having a laundry facility associated with the building, but not with the...
Not individual units? Okay.
And that would have its own EDU.
That would have its own EDUs there then.
And probably more than one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Shirokiti, this is your Public Works update dated June 13th. Mm-hmm. Is Gulfview Apartments on here?
No, because we haven't approved it yet, so I didn't have it on there. It's probably on the pending on the other side, but maybe not.
So if I'm reading this right, can you, that blue section down there, that's what you wrote as remaining EDUs?
So when I put this together, I'm trying to think if I have it all for you on here, because we were talking about it. I don't think, no, these were just approved ones. So we have, so we are.
What's the number there?
Which we have approved 1,874. And so out of that 1,874, 125 of them have been used. So that's what's been. Those have been permits that have come in, and so our goal is that so we're looking at like 200 units a year, or a little bit more than that, 250. So it's not like we're going to hit that over them all in one shot, but so you have approved over what we have in our system. Those are availability, and so if they're not there yet,
that's a tough concept, right? Like, we've approved them, and we can't say that we can say with confidence they won't all be built this year, but we don't. They're all approved to be built this year. And so that number in blue there, the permits remaining, is -96. And so now we're talking 174 and all the others that are coming right behind them in the same permitting process.
And some of those might have never come to fruition because we haven't seen a lot of some of those, have just been sitting there for quite a while. But I have them on there because they have been approved.
And that's part of my concern with my initial comments of the 3-year window. Like, I understand a lot of PUDs get designed and approved just so the developer can turn around and sell those rights to somebody else, and then they never come to fruition, so to speak. But like, if that were the case and there was never an intention to build or just life changes, then the way it's written looks to me like they have 6 years before their permitted and approved EDUs drop off of our table for others to take advantage of who do want to build.
And again, when they sign those, it is availability. So if there's no availability at the time, they don't get a permit until, so that is part of it. So that's what those are.
And they wouldn't pay for that EDU impact until the time of building permit?
Correct.
So, but they do all the like street work and groundwork before they do building permits, right? So there'd be many millions of dollars into this before.
They would pay their water right fees and a lot of those things before, yes.
Water rights, but not the EDU fees.
Not the EDU fees, not their hookup. That is it building permit. So again, in the window, I mean, we do have, we're gonna start our new well, and I think if you look at the next number on there, this other side, so once our well is online, which we're thinking in 2 years, then that jumps to the number that's on the
If I'm reading that right, that means that we're expecting that one well to provide 1,500 EDUs?
or more.
Or more. That's like the minimum number?
So we're shooting for is 15, so yes.
And I've asked this before, I'm sorry, I forget. How long do you think until that well's running?
I'm hoping we get it online within 2 years.
Within 2 years,
Two-
where it's
Yeah.
pumping water through our
Yeah.
citizens, to our citizens' homes? Okay. I think I've addressed everything else. Thank you.
Council President,
Councilwoman Garvey.
quick couple questions. Are you planning on keeping these units? Are you planning on keeping these units?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, so it's your investment opportunity, okay. I would like to see some sort of plan in place that we do take out a little bit of the walking path and keep the parking spots. I feel like that would be it would be a better benefit for your tenants to have that. So
remove walking path, increase.
whichever portion of that looks like, yeah. You said it's feasible.
I believe so. I'm always cautioned by my engineer that says we
sure.
have to actually do it to make sure.
And
We believe we can hit 1.5.
And at the end of the day,
Or more.
I say that because obviously you're an investor and you want your units to be full.
Correct.
And if we have an overabundance of units in the future, which could be a possibility, we have had that happen, your units could be more favorable because of these certain things. We have a lot of investment property too, so I get it.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, so those are my comments.
Nothing?
Yep, everybody's answered and talked about mine.
Okay. Well, I just have a few comments, I guess, myself. I agree with Carl about taking out the entire walking path. There really is a nice walking path within a quarter mile of the proposed development. The East 8th Street, I think we can all agree on that subject. I am worried about sheriffs, police, fire, EMS, extrication, you name it. And then the last one that really concerns me was actually the traffic study. As I was reading that a little closer, on American Legion Boulevard, we're expecting 50% increase in the morning, 25% increase in the PM, and then along East 8th Street North, 50% increase and 10% increase. So it is a lot of traffic. Just concerns me.
Mr. President, can I clarify that?
Yeah.
If possible. 50% increase over the count he made, not 50% increase in traffic. That's a moderation of the number to match for the COVID and for the other things.
Okay.
The traffic count, the total traffic count, I think Rich has, is relatively minor in terms of movement.
Okay.
It's what's coming out of there.
It's not a 50% increase in
It's not
traffic.
increasing every traffic.
It's over what their estimate was.
Council, what would you like to do?
I make a motion to approve the rezone to C3 PUD of the 5.7 acres on East 8th North Street.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I was like reading, I totally apologize. Can you tell me what that was again?
I just made a motion, actually, so I guess I should make sure I clarify. We need to add in some traffic spots, excuse me. Let me restate mine. I make a motion to approve the rezone to the C3 PUD with the changes in this plat to at least 1.5 minimum parking spots. And take out,
Sorry, I lost
that's
Paul.
totally fine, we lost Paul. And also take out the parking on East State Street, that's out of the question.
Gotcha, back on.
And then,
Thank you.
I believe that's it.
Remove the language of water rights.
And to change the language of the water rates on the preliminary plat to just City of Mountain Home Water. Yeah, no municipal, no water rights. Yes, okay.
Yeah, I got a motion with conditions.
I'll remove my first second and go with the second, with the conditions.
All right. Any further discussion? Councilman Brennan?
You know I'm always a pain in everyone. But to clarify a little further, rather than just 1.5, stick to the 2.0 with the two-bedroom units and 1.5 for all of the single-bedroom units.
We already have 2 in there for the 2 units,
I know, but your motion just simply said 1.5. So,
for the 1-bedroom units, yes.
okay.
Is that a correction to?
No, it says 2 in there already.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I took it as.
Yeah. Yeah.
So motion is second. I'll call for the question. Councilman McCain.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
I'm really struggling with this one. There's a lot that kind of concerns me still. I don't think it fits there. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it fits there with all of the emergency services around it. No other residential units. The lack of parking, even at 1.5, I'm gonna vote against it at nay.
Councilman McGarvey.
Yay.
Councilman Stokes. I vote nay.
Excuse me.
I don't see it fitting as well. I'd like to see the number go up to maybe 1.75 or 2. So, Mr. Urquidy or Paul, what do? We have a
We
tie.
don't have a person here to tie or vote.
If there's a tie, then whatever the motion is fails.
Yeah.
And was it the motion to approve?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that means the motion to approve is failed. And since there's no tie-breaking vote, that's it. It operates as a failure. As a denial, pardon me.
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Brennan.
Without a tiebreaker, I think this could very well could be a challenge, but
Yeah.
I'm going to make a motion to deny the rezone to C3 PUD.
Got a motion to deny rezone to C3.
Wait, can we do that now?
I guess I don't understand.
Well, this is already, according to you, is dead, but Councilman Brennan wants to now make a motion to deny it.
So there was a motion to approve it, and it didn't have a tie-breaking vote to approve it. Therefore, it is not approved, it's denied.
Correct, so we cannot make another motion then.
Well, I mean, if you're going to, you're not precluded, for example, right now it's a denial. If there's something that can make it an approval, i.e. you can deliberate and say, if I make subsequent motion to approve with the following conditions, will that appease the nay votes or not? Then I suppose you could do that. But a motion to denial after a motion to approve has failed is the same thing.
Council, what would you like to do? We can deliberate some more and come to a solution.
That's up to you two.
Council, I'm more amenable to the city code says 2 spots per unit. He's asking to deviate from that. I would rather us follow city ordinance and say let's go to 2, take out some units, add more parking. It's a win-win.
Councilman Brennan?
I really struggle with the water thing. You know, like I said, I've got multiple issues that run through my head like a hamster wheel. I know not all of our EDUs that we approved are going to come to fruition. It's just a fact. They're not all going to. Some of them that we've approved are already for sale on the market. Doesn't mean it won't sell and somebody will build exactly that. But our economy is also wildly unpredictable, I think, right now, not knowing what's going to happen. So is the water probably there and available? It probably is. If I deny this one based on water, then I have to deny everybody else tonight based on water. So it's not really part of my decision, but it's in my mind is that number in blue on this piece of paper says we have negative 96 EDUs remaining. And, you know, if we drill a well and they don't strike water, we got to pay another lots and lots of money for another hole, right? So I don't think we can plan to say we're going to have more water in 2 years until they strike gold underneath the ground. I mean, that's my planning brain. I hope that doesn't happen. That, you know, they don't hit water, but it's happened before to us, right?
I couldn't say, I think.
I thought you said
I've never
I
heard
can
it.
only know of one that they drilled that they had to move it a little bit to
The reason,
and hit.
But the reason they had to move it is because it hit a fissure and
Right, and it went off to the side. That was the only one I know
straight
of.
down, so they had to move it.
And that's always a possibility with any well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Council President?
Councilman McGarvey.
I think it's important to note that although, and I agree with you, I'm very concerned about water as well, and we have approved a lot, but these people who are on this list as a kind of they could build, but if we don't have the availability, the City of Mountain Home's going to say, I'm sorry, you can't build right now.
You're right.
So it's really important to keep that in mind, that it looks like we're going to have 1,800 homes coming, and it's worrisome. But if we don't have that number 2 well, or, no, excuse me, number 17 well in place, they're not allowed to have a building permit. So we still hold the keys of the development, and I think that's important to remember at the end of the day. So I think that part of it is helpful for you.
Thank you. Ask a question to Paul.
Sure, Councilman Brennan.
Paul, you on the phone?
Yeah.
Can I just, I guess, get some peace of mind that when they sign their, what is it, Rich? The final plat for the water rights?
They're PUD, but I mean, yes, their final plat, they can't do anything until their final plat is approved.
Sorry, what's the
That's
stage?
correct.
What's the stage in which we tell them this is contingent upon water availability?
It's right now.
It's in the
You don't wait till, and it's right now you say that, once they receive, preliminary plat and or PUD approval, then they're allowed to quote unquote break ground, but they do not get any certificates of occupancy or ability to sell until they get final plat. But any condition of approval regarding water rights or something has to be articulated now.
And that will stand the test in a courtroom if they do all the groundwork and all that stuff, and then we come and deny them because we don't have water. We'll survive legally.
Yes, if the condition of approval is that they have to have water, the applicant is saying, yes, we will, and we understand that in order for our project to be approved, that we have to provide this benefit, and it's the power of contract that we are having the ability to bargain. That's what a PUD is, really, is a bargain.
Okay, thank you.
Council, I'll give you my thoughts. I was doing some math here. I like the 2 parking spaces per unit. He's asking for, or your motion was 1.5.
The minimum.
Yeah, what if we settled on 1.75? It put the total parking a little north of 300, and that would be for the 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms. I think the walking path is null and void, as well as parking on East 8th North.
That's not his problem. His problem's water.
Okay.
Yeah.
to where me, if she put in her amendment, or she amended her
That one's dead though.
recommendation to add availability of water, would that be acceptable then?
On her motion?
Yes.
Just adding that one?
Mhm.
No. I told you, I don't think it fits anyways.
Well, I know there's been,
But I'm willing to meet in the middle still. I'll make a motion.
Councilman Rem?
Make a motion to approve the request to rezone to C3 PUD, stipulating approval is based on water availability first. The parking spaces for the 2-bedroom units fall at 2.0 per unit. And 2.0 for the single bedroom units. And on the typical P&Z language, I would add that an approval will be subject to the site plan amendments as required by building, public works, fire, zoning officials to comply with applicable city codes and standards. And all future development will comply with the uses and bulk coverage controls provided in attachment 7, proposed planned unit agreement. Just a sec. And no parking on East 8th North would be approved or allowed. And the language for, on the plat, talking about irrigation water rights, that paragraph 3 on the plat just needs to be worded appropriately and approved by legal.
Got a motion? Second? We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who was the second?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Call for the question. Councilman McCain?
aye.
Councilman Wren?
Aye.
Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes says aye. Thanks. Okay, moving on to action item C, deliberation decision on a request by Jessica Schick to consider changes to an ordinance of the City of Mountain Home, Idaho, amending Title 9, Chapter 9 by adding Section 2999-29 Mobile Food Concessions Yard. This request would also require amendments to Title 9, Chapter 3, Section 2 definitions to include mobile food concession and mobile food concession yard, and to Title 9. Mr. Yakiti, you want to give us a little summary of this?
This was, so the community development staff has defined a mobile food concession yard as a property where 2 or more mobile food concessions congregate to offer food and beverage for sale to the public as a primary use of land. This definition shall not be interpreted to include a congregation of mobile food vendors as a secondary, accessory, or temporary use. This is proposed that the applicant and the staff that the mobile food concession yard be considered a conditional use in a what I can't think what LOR. What's L?
I was wondering the same
I
thing.
can't think what LO is.
I had the same question, yeah.
In a way, it's residential.
Yeah, it's it's for an office, actually. This wouldn't even refer to that, an LOR, because that's a office space, mainly attorneys, stuff like that, not this.
So C1, C2, C3, C4, I1, I2, and I1. So basically, it's just making the conditional use that they can come and ask for a conditional use. And again, this was the applicant put this in, and that they just brought it forward. So
Mr. Yakiti, is the applicant here by chance?
she is.
Oh, cool. You want to come up and give us your thoughts on this?
Hi, I'm Jessica Schick. So what we're doing with this lot, like prior to this lot the owner kept trying to, I don't know, make it into something like an RV spot or anything, continuously failing at everything that he tried to do. I mean, honestly, like, I ended up taking over this for him with the thought of making it into an amazing food truck yard. And so far, I've turned a barren land that's just full of weeds and overgrown bush, making an eyesore into this city, into something where people can actually come and congregate, and a place where there can be any kind of food trucks or, you know, mobile food units coming in without any trouble. There's a bunch of space there for any kind of events or any food trucks. There's seating. There's, we're working on getting, you know, grass in there and everything. We're working on, you know, after all of this, we're gonna try and pave or, you know, seal a part of the land for, where the food trucks go and where parking is. And it's so big, we can be able to do things there that any other food truck lot here in this town can't do without having problems. Like, one of the biggest problems that I've seen, if anyone's ever paid attention to any of the other food truck lots, is parking. We have a huge amount of parking. We've never had a problem with anyone crashing into anyone else, anyone accidentally running over a child, anyone going under anyone's cars or anything, anyone having to get out of the way because it's only one-way traffic getting in and out of the place. The owner did widen the driveway for that purpose, so that way that can happen. We were also gonna screen the trash receptacle that we have out there, make it a little nicer. We turned the bus into indoor seating. We're still currently working on it. We got some booths out, and then we're gonna put like a bench along the wall, so that's still in the works. But we've improved that lot so much already within the 1 year's time that we've had this going. And then we just ask that we can continue on throughout the year, making it an all-year thing, and I can continue on doing the improvements, doing the events that I want to do. I have numerous other vendors that have talked to me. One time we did like a night market where it was kind of like the farmer's market, but in the summertime it's more closer to the evening time, and that was a huge hit. And they want to do that again. I want to do that again. We have so many different ideas for the place. We're just working on this to get it going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
The only question I had, it looks like you want to create yards and have it all detailed out with it paved. Is that correct?
Paved or put some sort of thing down on the ground to make it more solid rather than just a dirt lot.
Okay. And we're talking about Johnny Behind the Rocks, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, council, any questions?
I don't have, President, excuse me. I don't have questions per se for her. I just have questions in general. I guess I'm confused. What exactly are we looking to change?
Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr.
Council, so if you look on the front, so it's going to amend the definitions, so it's going to give a definition for what a mobile food truck concession, a mobile food concession yard is, so that's kind of that first part that I read. The second one would be to amend the land use chart to actually add this into it.
Okay.
And then amend the unique land uses and performance standards, so a mobile yard concession yard, and so it would give it some standards of what they're doing. So that's what
Okay.
So this is to, basically this would be to say, yes, we want to move forward with this. Those amendments and everything would come forward to you guys to approve, so you're not really approving that right now. This is to be able to get something, put words so you can bring it forward and start.
Okay.
And there is a public hearing we're
So
supposed to have to.
this 9.929 is just basically all new, just being brought forth. Okay, all right, now I'm understanding why we're having this conversation. Okay.
So it'll be, so it's not just to Johnny Behind the Rock area, it would be to other places.
So it must have been across from the Red Pavilion.
It is.
Right, okay, I wanted to make sure I had the right one.
And that's where the applicant has her operation, but this would be able, so people, if there was something else that fits into this in the city,
Yeah.
they would be able to get a conditional use. It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
One other quick thought, I would not want to see grass or something of that nature, just because that adds to our problems with watering and everything else.
Well, there's
so-
already, like, if you look at the edges of the property, I don't know if you've
I'm
visited
very
it,
familiar
or
with it,
the upper portion that's right behind the doctor's clinic,
office,
that
yeah.
already has grass.
Yeah.
We're just like maintaining it right now,
Right.
like.
Yeah, maybe some green carpeting or something like that. It's just, if you start adding grass and we
Yeah,
start
like not
having-
actual, like,
Yeah, okay.
real trying to water it every day or anything like that.
Perfect, okay. I
And the
don't see any
main part
problems with
would
this.
still be gravel or pavement or something.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to,
I've got a question, for basically for her area more than anything else. You realize you're in a floodway, not just a flood zone.
Yes, that's why we're here.
Picnic tables and whatnot like that in a floodway technically are not allowed to stay there overnight. Because any type of flood,
as
those
they
are
are not
removable.
permanent, which I've
Anytime-
proven time and time again to, even Brock, he came out, with his, I don't know, whatever, he came out with one of his crews and he actually looked at the way that we built everything and had it all going to make sure that we were within the guidelines of keeping everything temporary. So everything could literally be moved out within like 5 minutes flat. And we made it that way for it to happen that way. So we are within the guidelines of how we made it.
Okay, I won't argue with you that, because that has nothing to do with this. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of it.
Yeah,
Because with something that comes up with this, being you're in a flood zone, I would require flood information being put forward on yours.
Yeah.
To
And
where, so.
we actually, on the upper portion, like as long as everything goes through, Bill was talking about putting in some sort of a shed or something, so that way we can remove everything from the lower portion nightly or anything, and then put it up there into storage. So we have talked about that as well.
The only thing I'd like to see is that removed from the LOR area.
okay.
Because that's right in the middle of the residential zone, is I believe the only one we even have here.
Councilman Stokes.
Councilman Wood?
Can I get clarification on that? Do you want to take away the LOR
Yes.
R zone?
Yeah, because there's only one that I know of we even have, and that's down 6th, where it used to actually be Phil Gridley
Where
Market.
the Gridley's Market used to be on the other side, the other side of the,
It's basically just a
Hospital.
small commercial use, and then there's, right down 6th also, there's, was set up for some type of attorneys and different things like that. There's just 1 or 2 people going to be coming there at a time.
Okay. I'd support that, taking that one out. Councilman Stokes,
Councilman Wood?
I really don't have any problems with this. I guess the question is, I think Councilman McKeon addressed it, is we're not talking today about putting any kind of restrictions on it, because if this is approved after that, then she will bring forward a
Yeah.
conditional use permit, because you're operating on a temporary permit right now.
Yes.
It's been extended once already.
Yes,
How much longer do you have on that?
the rest of June.
What's that?
The rest of June.
Rest of June.
Yeah. We had a previous meeting, but due to the conversation happening before, I think it got tabled.
Yeah.
So we pushed it out 2 extra weeks.
Okay. So I'd just like to say it for the record, it may not apply to exactly this, but there are a couple things that, similar to what Councilman O'Kane said, like when the conditional use permit comes forward, or things that I would care about. The city basically requires paved parking lots on any commercial enterprise or property. I think there's been a few temporary permits that hasn't been enforced on because it's temporary or something. I'm not exactly sure why. And then things like the ADA accessible, the on-site water retention, which is what I think standard procedure, what we make everybody do. And maybe that only applies if there's a paved parking lot. If it's a gravel surface, it's just gonna go right down, I'm sure. And you already talked about it, the enclosed trash receptacles are screened. And then I'd like to ask Mr. Urquidy, do we know what the EDU assessment would be on a mobile food vendor park or yard?
Unless, they would supply their own water from their trucks, unless that piece of property was to get a water meter hooked up to it that they all use, they would pay an EDU from that, but this would be set up this is mobile use, so this is their own water, their own.
Everything they bring in, they take out.
Is that current standard practice? Everybody trucks in their own water?
Yeah.
There's no hose bib there or anything?
No, not at the moment, no.
Okay.
If they are using one, they're using one off of, they're borrowing somebody else's, like they have permission to do
Sure.
that.
Okay. And then, well, I mean, I've seen a lot of these, I can't say a lot, a couple of these food trucks I've seen at our city, what do you call that, Rich? They're like the mass water supply. You just pull up and fill up, that they're there on a daily basis. Is that?
They should be using the bulk water to fill up their tanks if they're doing something.
That's what I mean, like where they get large quantities of water really quick. Is that free or are they paying for that?
If the bulk water, they pay the bulk water price, they sign up for it.
Sign up ahead of time or they just sign up?
They have an account.
Oh, they do?
They have an account and there's a board that they write it down and fill up their tanks.
Right, and sign and a key.
Oh, it's locked?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right, perfect, thank you. And then, hold on. No, just the other note I wrote would be the typical P and Z approval language based on the things, but I guess today's only about putting the allowable use on there.
Yeah. Well, and we have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr.
Mr.
President,
Keith?
Council, I just wanted to make sure, I was gonna ask, Paul, does that, I said that correct, right? This has to go to, the amendment will come back to council and goes through the ordinance reading just like anything else?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, I just wanted to double check that I was right.
Cool, thanks, Jessica. Okay, we're gonna have a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against the Mobile Food Concessions Yard would like to come up and speak? Hearing
This
none.
isn't set for a public hearing now, is it?
It is, yeah.
It says public hearing, but,
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
yeah, it says public hearings.
Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, what would you like to do?
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Brennan?
Let me make sure I get the language right. I'd make a motion to approve the zoning title amendment, Title 9, Land Use and Development, chapter of Mountain Home City Code regarding the mobile food concession yards, with the condition of removing the LO and R zone.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Further discussion? I'll take the vote. Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes says aye. Thanks. Next item, public hearing, deliberation, decision on a request by Mark Taylor and care of Matt Sanchi for a rezone from C4 heavy commercial zone to an R4 planned unit development, West 8 Townhomes PUD. And we have a public hearing. Is the applicant in the room by chance, or would Mr. Yerkey like to give us a summary?
I can give you a quick summary, Mr.
Okay.
President, Council. I believe this is the first hearing for this one, so
Okay.
give me a chance, because I haven't heard anything. The other ones I knew kind of what was going on a little bit, but, so this is, again, this is to rezone 3.56 acres located between West 7th South and West 9th South, between South 5th West and South 3rd West B. They want to go to a R4 PUD. I will just real quickly, I believe that if we go to here, it's kind of all, if you look at it, it's kind of an R4 and a C4, already kind of right in that one, so I want to bring it all to an R4 PUD. And it's just, I mean, I can let the applicant do that, but, 42 modern, high-end, single-family rental townhouses with 1 and 2 car garages. All buildings consist of 3 levels with the ground floor garage, 2 floor living units, and at 35 feet height. Private entrances, so that's community mailboxes, those things, water conservative landscape. Again, this has been, I'm just going to do this before I do before, it has been, notifications have been sent out to 29 property owners within 300 feet. The 26 public entities, it's been published in the Mountain Home News. The public hearing was posted on 5/31. As of 4/28, there's been no letters of opposition. Actually, today I didn't get any to either no opposition letters or no letters of that are in favor. So, and I'll let you, if that's anything else, I'll let you finish it off.
Yeah, applicant, would you like to give us a summary, or?
Yeah, I can give you a brief summary on it. We have a landlocked parcel there off 8th Street in the R4, partially in the R4 zoning along the canal. We're doing a concept of, these are single-family homes. They are townhomes, row house style, small backyards, 2-car garages for every unit, and then additional surface parking. The intent here is to provide either long-term lease initially, and then eventually the option to potentially purchase after the fact. They will be individually platted. 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, approximately 2,100 square foot of living space, 3 levels up to the 35-foot mark to get the 3 levels. Again, small backyard, a little bit of balcony space. The intent being airmen, young families, low maintenance yards, people who are going to be deployed but friends are staying, a way to have something that's more like a home instead of an apartment. You have an outdoor space, there's some community path, there's some standard community amenities. We tried to balance outdoor community amenity, landscape with lowscape, and the water concerns, of course. We want to provide a backyard if this is a young family, a military family, or somebody starting out that purchased this. There's enough room for a child or a small animal to go outside, make it feel like a home, not an apartment. Nice amenities, large kitchens, big windows. You know, there's a great view. It's, you know, mountain home. It's a pretty place. I mean, I love the high desert. I think people like this. It's a unique lot because of how it's landlocked. We have a single access way. We've spoken with fire, dealt with the single access. The units will be residentially sprinklered, not a full sprinkler system, but a single life safety sprinkler head per unit, or per room. Hydrants, on-site retention per, you know, some of you, I know your concerns. There's a child drop-off school bus type area available, along with community mailboxes, covered areas. Again, trying to create a sense of community. We're still trying to respect the fact that this is a single-family home area, but it's close to the amenities, and we want to get density without putting people in human filing cabinets, and that's the intent with this type of development. When we spoke with Brock and some of the community early on, we went through our planning reviews. People liked and responded to modernizing the aesthetic, bringing in a bit of a newer feel, youthful feel. If you want to stay here, if you're excuse me, an airman or a young family, why go to Boise? Why live in Caldwell when you can live here, you know, and have a nice home, have 8, 9, 10-foot ceilings and all the nice essentials, but not have a huge yard to take care of, not have a huge area. And one thing, you know, as previously stated, parking. Every unit is two-car garages, full size, actually large enough for a full-size pickup and a standard SUV. And there are 34 on-site parking spaces as well. We had more in the original application, but due to fire, space, irrigation requirements, the site, you know, shrank a little bit on us. But we are providing about 2.8 spaces overall. Biggest issues for us is, of course, dealing with the canal. The entire complex is fenced. We're using fireproof fencing along the canal to accommodate their needs. And then we're looking at the existing road as our access point, doing improvements there, bringing our utilities in there, and then any other utilities we need, working with the irrigation district to run the easement to the north to get on, I believe that's 5th Avenue to the north. So trying to get everything connected and accommodate all the concerns early on to make this homes and accommodate what Mountain Home wants to present to the future.
Councilman.
I'd just like to say, your design is excellent, right? Like, I think it would be an absolute great fit in Mountain Home. You mentioned the aesthetics, and what I like the most is the garage, right? You're given just having a garage, I think, gives a good home feeling. So I don't have a lot to critique or criticize, so to speak. There's a couple of real small issues that I wrote down as I went through this.
Yes.
Is that I tried to find it the best I can, but do you have like a general trash collection area on your plat here?
This is intended as single family, so we're doing small wheel bins, intended small yardage wheel bins, so it'll be individual trash. The units will pay for themselves. They'll be wheeled out in front of the garages, and with the larger driveway space, then picked up off the sidewalk curb. So to not have the attractive nuisance of a trash bin area, and to keep this, again, feeling like a single family residence.
Yeah, I get that. And so going a little further, what's the width of your internal road?
26 feet to the sidewalk, all the way around.
And so this may not be like, I'll have Mr. Urquidy talk in just a second, but the city ordinance does not allow trash receptacles to be put on the sidewalk, so that puts them out in the street in the gutter. This is really just one-sided though, so there won't be trash receptacles on both sides of the street, is that right?
Correct.
Let me see. Looking through.
There's a central island that's parking, but then, and that's creating a landscape buffer between the units, again, to try to keep that from being a asphalt sea out there, and then creating that separation that you're concerned about, I think, between units.
And so with just a couple concerns with that is, trying to see the compass on here. North looks like whatever.
North is to the left of the sheet. It's actually, if you turned it in this orientation, you have the correct orientation.
Thank you. So the couple units that are on the northern edge and the southern edge to the east, when I see like a trash truck coming in there, he has to back up like 2 houses deep to be able to turn around and go to the other houses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know that a trash truck backing up is the best idea in a high density area like that. Have you thought about that potential?
It is, we were thinking about fire specifically in some of those conditions, but we do understand the trash truck. Generally, the trash groups want nothing more than 150 feet, and they want 50 foot of backup range, and we've tried to accommodate it in that sense. It is a situation of the property, to deal with that particular incident in those couple areas, and we could say that maybe those units have an accommodation that they need to place their bins somewhere else, and we can speak with solid waste to deal with that and find an accommodation for that.
Will that be your problem or the homeowner's problem at that time?
It would probably be in an HOA situation, and the homeowners would then have to accommodate whatever solid waste may say is their accommodation. I don't think, based on previous experience, again, and I'd like solid waste's input on this, or whoever's doing the trash pickup, to weigh in if the 2 unit deep is going to be a severe issue for them. I've generally found one-way streets or dead-end streets not to be overly a problem, as long as they're not extremely deep for them. They may even consider the guys jumping off the truck and grabbing those bins and walking them over if they don't want to back up to prevent the traffic. And we can try to find a way to accommodate that. I'd hate to lose, units due to trash bins, of course.
Of course, yeah. I'm not trying to get rid of units by any means. If there's a centralized location for those trash bins, that would fix it. I had a train of thought there. I lost it. Maybe I'll circle back to that. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, though, in the plat, is how you can protect, the occupants of that area, whether it's children or whatever, from getting backed over by a trash truck. Also, the sidewalk at your sorry, not the sidewalk, the vacated road on West 8th South, has that been completed?
No, that actually is, I'm sorry about that. That was a conversation early on in the process about the city potentially vacating that, and it meant to be future vacation, with a question mark, but we can take that off as a condition of the approval, that it's meant to be the road. We're going to improve the road. Early on in the meetings, there was some discussion that the city doesn't really want to maintain a road to nowhere, for lack of a better description, and potentially becoming our road. But initially, we were happy to do the improvements and keep it as, I think that's West West 8, of course, yeah. There's so many, the numbers.
So I did.
And so the vacated, we're happy to remove that as a clarification and get you guys a new map that clarifies that for now. And then we might pursue it.
I'm kind of lost though. Do you own that?
Currently, no.
No.
The city owns it.
So the city will maintain ownership of it?
Or we vacate it.
Or we vacate it to
I had
them?
the impression we already vacated it.
You vacated the portion,
All the way through.
you vacated this portion, which came into here, because knowing that it wasn't going to pass through. And that has been completed about a year ago, I believe. The next portion,
Wasn't vacated.
and they did discuss that in the early meetings and the early pre-apps to potentially consider vacation of the rest, but it hasn't been pursued. We're looking for the approvals before we go through that whole process.
So, I think this is what we're talking about. The improvement of the right-of-way will be made when jurisdiction vacates West 8th South as an entry to proceed development. And what you're telling us is that you are more than happy to remove that as part of the PUD?
Yeah, we can do that.
A proposed 30-foot asphalt road, drive, curb, gutter intended, this brings me to the sidewalk, a single sidewalk along one side to pedestrian access. The city tries to grow smartly, right, for the future, and I believe that, there will be development on the south end there too, as you leave West 8th South to South 3rd West. So I'd like to see sidewalk on both sides of the West 8th South entrance and exit, because you never know what's going to be down there in the very near future, or maybe extended
And
future.
our consideration with that is putting the onus of an additional sidewalk on the developer for that property potentially, while we do the widening and the improvements and bringing the utilities down. Would that be an acceptable condition?
But the sidewalk only goes to your property, right?
Right. If we were to put one on the south side, we're seeing it as redundant currently, but if somebody else wanted an additional sidewalk in front of their property, the development of the south, that's where we were considering. We would think that they would probably be facing the east street, which I believe is 5th.
Just like, Mayor,
But
Mr. President,
Mr. Keating?
Council, so that would be like right here. So if somebody developed this, they would probably have to put the sidewalk on this one. That would be,
that was
that was the intent that we talked about.
What's the potential of the city just putting it in as the road is developed, so that we don't have to tear it up later? And maybe we take on the cost of that and assess it to the next development.
Mr. President, it's going to have a curb and gutter, so and then I believe just going to be landscape would be my guess. So it would just be changing the landscape, whoever was going to do that. So there's no cutting into the road or anything. So this, we kind of looked at this with something, it's one of those, because it's landlocked, it's kind of unique. If you look at a property, it's off of, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it. That was, they had a small chunk of land. It's over kind of by McKenna Junior High or McKenna Elementary. There's kind of a little private drive that goes back. We didn't have them put any sidewalk because there was no room to do that, but they had to put it all the way around. So we kind of look at this kind of the same deal. It is kind of a unique piece of land, and we felt this was probably the best use for what was going on with that. There is currently, I don't believe there's any sidewalk on, there's no sidewalk currently on anywhere going this way on the property. So it was kind of one of those, really that sidewalk's leading to nowhere right now, so.
Okay. And, sir, I read the notes somewhere, I can't find it at the moment, about your entrance signs. As you have it on the plat here, I see specifically it says monument sign with uplighting. That's probably where I read it right there. Approximately 7 foot wide by 5 foot high.
Yeah.
What do we have to do to ensure that that's not in the vision triangle at all?
And that would probably be done on our sign application, and we would make those
Sign
adjustments.
application would require to be out of vision triangle.
Yeah,
Okay.
we would adjust that, again, with the preliminary concept and getting the roads approved. We didn't want to get too nitty-gritty with anything until we were sure that the property was not moving around anymore, but we're happy to, of course, safety being the primary concern.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
We have to have a public hearing regarding this. So, would anyone like to come down and speak about the West 8th Townhomes PUD for or against?
I switched that with that one. Oh, sorry.
Council members, Misty Pierce. Mr. Akiti, could you go to slide 43, please? So at the last public hearing, there was some concerns at the design, and I know Councilmember Brennan made some comments on that. The design does not fit Mountain Home or the properties that have been approved that are going to go on either side of that or across the street. They stated that they had taken that design from a house in the area. There's only one house in that entire neighborhood that has a slanted roof. And so we were just kind of trying to make sure that it fits with Mountain Home and not clashing with the developments that are going to be on either side or across the street from it. And then on slide 41, there was some concerns that traffic congestion, emergency access, I know it is looped, but you got one way in, one way out. And unless they put up a barrier and make it, one way all the way around, you're gonna have a lot of congestion after school, people getting off work at the same time, whatnot, especially for that child pickup drop-off. And then water, again, if you guys could just please take that in consideration. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and speak for or against? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council, what would you like to do?
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Wren?
I'm just curious, does anybody else have any designs or ideas, or even if they don't even have a problem with the trash receptacle thing on those couple units for the trucks having to back up?
Anything that I know that I have seen in the past was that with some of these that don't go back very far, they will stop, get out, drag a couple of them forward far enough to get a hold of them to get them in. Some of them they'll just back up depending on the traffic and what's going on in that area.
Do they charge more for that? It's similar to our disabled person service that they get charged more or something?
They're where we got one across the street that they don't just back up, basically. They'll pull in and then they turn around to get out because it's just a T street.
Okay.
But I've seen him pull in there. He'd get out of his truck, go grab one, take it back, go grab the other one, take it back, and then just come out rather than trying to pull forward and back up and pull forward and back up to get each one of them.
Okay.
But then I can't say that they'll do this for sure.
Sure. I just wanted, because I said something real stupid, we don't charge more for that disabled thing. If we do charge more for people that have the ability to, they just choose not to take their cans out to their street, so they get charged more. That's it. Sorry, I misspoke.
Mr. Yukiti, go ahead.
President, Council, just kind of a question off yours when you just mentioned the 26 feet. 26 feet is the minimum that we have for our fire department. That let all the apparatus that falls out, because this is 3-story, the ladder truck needs to get in there, so that's why that is. That's why they designed the hammerhead, because they can back in and still be able to get out. So this has been through the fire marshal, and everybody's has approved everything. So just for you on that. So.
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Wren?
I guess if there's nothing else, may I make a motion? I'd make a motion to approve the rezone of 3.56 acres located between West 7th South Street and West 9th South Street, and between South 5th West Street and South 3rd West B Street to R4 PUD, West 8th South Townhomes, contingent upon, subject to site plan amendments as required by building, public works, fire, zoning officials to comply with applicable city codes and standards. And all future development will comply with the uses and bulk coverage controls provided in attachment 8, proposed planned unit agreement. Outside of the motion, I just asked the developer to consider something else for those trash facilities for those couple of units.
Councilman, Mr. Yukiti has one thing to add.
You added that over the first one. Did you want to add water availability?
Yes, thank you. Adding to my motion that it is contingent upon us actually having the water to give you.
Got a motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? The only thing I would add is I like that you had the xeriscaping in there. the 2-car garage per unit, plus the additional 34 parking. This actually looks pretty good for our constituents. So I will take the vote. Councilman Garvey.
Aye.
Councilman Brennan.
Aye.
Councilman McCain.
Aye.
And myself vote aye. Thanks. Action item, public hearing, deliberation, discussion on a request by Ken Stone to rezone the parcels of land addressed as 950 Sunset Strip from C3 General Commercial Zone to I2 Heavy Industrial. I'm not going to read those. We did get one letter in to the entire council. Is that correct, Mr. Urquidy? Against this, I believe.
It was, sorry, we did get an alert today that was against it, and I don't know, it's on record, I mean, I don't know if read it or.
I don't think so.
We'll put it into record,
Yeah, we
so.
all got it.
And Mr. Urquidy, would you give us a little summary of this, please?
Oh, I would love to, let me pull it up here. Okay, the request is to rezone 2 parcels of land from a C3 general commercial to an I2 heavy industrial. The parcels of land, that isn't addressed at 950 Sunset Strip. The purpose of the proposal rezone is to allow for future commercial industrial uses. So that's the big pieces, was the uses. It was, they weren't allowed in the one, but they are in this one, which a carpentry shop and a commercial laundry, which are not outright uses in a C3, but they are in an I2. That's really, it has been noticed. This publication was sent to 19 property owners. Notifications were sent to the 26 public entities. It was in the Mountain Home News, and it was posted on 531 of the property. And so I think I could hit the future. I mean, that's where we kind of are. The applicant is here, so you can see that I2 is right next to it, right here. And so, because I think part of it is an I2, so that's kind of how that is. So I'll leave that up for you for a second. So.
Great, and the applicant, would you state your name and then give us a
Ken
summary?
Stone, 95 North 18th East.
Okay.
So just as a point of clarification, the C3 currently allows for the laundry operations.
Okay.
So the rezoning request is for the carpentry shop. So under heavy industrial, you can't turn on a table saw. So, you know, it's kind of a, I don't know, heavy industrial without, in public comment, doesn't say what you're trying to do. So here I am. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a hobby and making it a business. I'm taking my 1,800 square foot wood shop and moving it to an area where I can do this on a commercial basis. So that's the intent. There's no water use on that, so water's bad in a carpentry shop.
On 7/10 of your property.
So, yeah, well, the other side is a net zero. So it's just moving from one location to another, so on the water side. There's no print on this because there's no change other than putting a door on the back. So we want to have access to the back, keeping it off the street. Talking with Idaho Power, this is a new thing. We are going to have to get a new transformer, so a new pole. It's going to be adjacent to the one that's there close to the property line on our side. But those are the only 2 visual changes. And then a big cleanup in the back, so that's going to be, that's a work in process.
Carl didn't have anything back there.
So yeah, basically it's taking the shop that's currently in a residential area, that was a hobby, and moving it down the street. So.
Council, any questions for the applicant? Okay, we have to have a, go ahead, Councilman Brennan.
I don't always like to be first, you know. I'm trying to give somebody else a chance here. The only concern I have on this, you've addressed a lot of these about like keeping the noise inside and the sawdust or whatever. It's all an indoor project and a daytime standard business hours, not a nighttime operation.
Correct.
That I appreciate. Truly, the only concern I have is the EDU assessment on this. Has there been he said net zero, but have we done a...
I can...
Mr. Urquidy.
Council, I can explain. So he means net zero, so he's bringing it down from the, hotels down to this spot.
The laundry?
So if I can elaborate on that?
Real quickly, so it is on, so in our thing, it is a, we know exactly how much water it's going to use, so he puts it in because this is a staff calculated. It's not
But
just
we're
on,
moving it from the hotel, bringing it to this
he
location.
can actually say how much water he's gonna use every year, so this is staff calculated on what the EDUs would be.
Are you saying you're actually gonna take away EDUs from the hotels?
Because they'll be moving their laundry shop down here.
All of it? Or are you like contracting that out or like just giving space up, or are you doing that work?
We're doing it.
You
So it's
are.
a consortium, if you will.
Okay.
So on one half of the shop will be, there's a fire barrier, which is number one for dust for laundry, right? So bad. And we have to, because it's combustible dust, we have to have fire barriers with blast gates for, in case there's a spark, deluge systems in case there's a spark, things like that. So we're going through that process. But as far as laundry goes, we're taking the machines that's currently at the Best Western and at the Hampton and putting them in the building.
Oh,
So,
so it truly.
so it is truly a net zero.
I understand now.
Yeah.
That helped. Thank you. All laundry will be removed from those two hotels?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're also looking to, when the Marriott comes in, then we're going to take over the Marriott as well.
Tell me more about that.
That's a different discussion.
No.
We still have to have Jenna.
Focus, grasshopper.
I was kidding.
Yeah, no, I had to do many, Councilman, President, I had to do several things over here with his shop and whatnot, and he has excellent machinery in there, dust for everything, and with this here, for going commercial, I know he'll take care of everything that's needed for it.
We still have to have a public hearing. So,
Council President, I just had one quick thing.
Councilman Derby.
The building looks very nice, thank you. The landscaping looks very, very nice. Not that
thank
Carl or PNC had anything, but it looks really nice. You've done,
Appreciate it.
I always admire your yard anyway, so I could see that going to PNC Plumbing as well, but yeah, looks nice.
Thank you.
And with that, I will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to come down to speak for or against? The
You
zone
want to be
from
first, do you?
C3 to I2 heavy industrial.
Misty Pierce again. I just have a quick question. I know he said that he was taking the laundry facilities or machines from the hotels down. Is he gonna be using more water or just about the same if he was still up on the hill? That's my only question, because water is a big concern. So that's all I had.
Thank you.
You didn't
I
get
couldn't
into-
clarify it, and I'm kind of hard of hearing, so, thank you.
Would anyone else?
But he should be using the same amount.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to come down to speak for or against this? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Council, what would you like to do?
You might give him a chance to
Oh, yeah.
answer that question.
Yeah.
So what we do is we look at occupancy. So each hotel is approximately 80% occupancy. And then we weigh the sheets and how much weight is in each room and how often it gets washed. So I can tell you it's around over a 5-year track record, it's around 830,000, 800,000 pounds of laundry per year. And because when the guest stays, all the linens get washed, all the terry gets washed.
Of course.
If there's 2 beds, it all gets washed. And so it's literally taking that and doing it in a different location. And understand there's some economies of scale by doing it in one location. So when you have 2 laundries, you have to maintain 2 staffs. So now we're short-staffed in housekeeping. I'm getting off the track here.
Yeah.
So, to the business plan. So,
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah.
okay, so thank you. So now we can take some of the laundry staff and put them in the housekeeping where we're short-staffed. And then you have economies of scale by having it all in one location, so.
Great. Thanks. Council, what would you like to do?
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Moran?
I just also wanted to state for the record that on per our future land use map, the request before us today is like perfectly, creates a straight line for a I2 zone, so I don't think there's any issues with that, just kind of squares it off a bit. So, Councilman Stokes?
That's Moran.
I would make a motion to approve a request by Ken Stone to rezone the parcel of land addressed as 950 Sunset Strip from C3 General Commercial Zone to I2 Heavy Industrial Zone.
Second.
Again, a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take the vote. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McKinney?
Aye.
Councilman Gerby?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thanks. Item F, action item, confirm Christina Drake to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is Mrs. Drake here? Would you like to come up and talk real quick?
That was definitely eye-opening. Are you sure you don't want to run?
Yeah, this is what you get to sit and do.
I'm so tempted. Do you want me to sit? Oh, man. What do you want me to say?
Mrs. Drake, I was just going to ask you, why would you like to be on the City of Mountain Home Planning and Zoning Commission?
Well,
And what are your goals?
Okay, well, as a real estate professional, real estate broker, I see a lot of the issues surrounding not only housing but also commercial properties. It is my goal to be able to bring some of the concerns of our citizens to light and be able to use those perspectives and my experience to be able to create a more sustainable and better mountain home.
Council, any questions?
Councilman Stokes?
Councilman Moon?
How are you?
Good.
Good. So one question that I ask of almost everybody that comes before us for one of these positions, so don't take it offensive or anything, I hope, but I wanna know from you if you have thought about or if you're able to separate your profession from the job of a planning and zoning member. Essentially that you can identify a conflict of interest and maybe refrain from voting on any conflict of interest.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's important to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry to interrupt you. Yes, I feel like that, especially right now, is so important with so many people in our profession saying, yes, it's super good, or no, it's super bad, and nobody in the middle. And I think I can definitely appreciate, I know where Councilwoman Garvey has come from before, where she really wants to be able to provide, and you as well, and everybody on the board, I mean, to provide that transparency and be able to provide like an accurate depiction of what is really going on. And that's something that I strive to bring to not only my clients, but also to the people that I encounter every single day in regards to our profession. So yes, it's something that I've considered very carefully because of that there could be a conflict of interest. There could be some things that are like really good for a client or for myself or whatever. I would be able to separate what I do for a living from my service to this city.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gordon?
I just want to say thank you for wanting to be a part of it. It's a big role, big commitment, and anybody that wants to volunteer and make our community better is good. Can't wait.
Handing that to you now.
Nobody's doing it, but as far as I'm concerned, welcome aboard.
Yeah, they will get one. That's my copy.
Okay. I came home yesterday to a big packet on my doorstep, so I was like, oh.
Mrs. Drake, I was just gonna say, me and you are friends, and yeah, it's tough to sit here sometimes and be able to separate those. So
yeah.
Are you sure you can vote impartially here now?
I believe I can.
Yeah, this guy.
We'll look for a motion from the council.
I'll go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to make a motion to appoint Christina Drake to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Further discussion? I'll take the vote. Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Benham?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Welcome aboard, Christina.
Thanks.
Okay. Item G, action item, confirm Scott Harrow to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Come on up, Scott. How are you?
Good. Yourselves?
Good. Want to give us a quick little summary of why you want to be on the City of Mountain Homes Planning and Zoning Commission?
President Council, Scott Harjo. I've lived in Idaho for, it would take 3 or 4 years now. Lived in large towns, medium towns. I grew up in very, very small agricultural towns that are very similar to Mountain Home. So I've got a lot of experience in what Western states culture really brings. I'm hoping that my experience in project and program management, and then just the practical side of me being a fabricator of all things metal and being a generally practical thinker in terms of engineering and scope, that we can kind of lean on those skills to bring a little bit more benefit to how we look at the scope of these projects, things like our water concerns, even things like Councilman Brennan's concerns about trash bin placement. Those are very practical application points that may get kind of lost in in the grandeur of some of these packets, that run 10, 20, 30 pages long.
That's it.
So, that's
Council, any questions?
Well, I gotta say, these are the only 4 people left in the room at 8 o'clock, so they've gotta be dedicated.
well, that and my wife and I joke that this is our bi-weekly date night on Monday city council meeting. So,
Councilman,
You better step that up.
she's the one that has to do it.
I know.
I just want to say, I have noticed you in the audience, and you're sticking it out to the end of the meeting, and that means a lot to me. Right? Just being involved, even if you didn't apply for this position, the people that come and sit and listen and pay attention and give their 2 cents, I appreciate it more than I think anyone knows. It helps me make sure I keep a good perspective on the job and on life. So thank you for applying, and I'm sure you'll be very dedicated to the job, and you'll be able to stand strong for the people that are in favor and opposed to our projects, and just do the right thing ultimately. That comprehensive plan, have fun reading it.
About halfway through it on my phone.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
President, I just want to say thank you again. Also, appreciate anybody that wants to do this work.
Yeah, all joking aside, when people do come, we do appreciate it, we do understand it. We don't always vote the way they want us to, but as they say, that's why we make the big bucks.
I want to say thank you to you and your wife for serving on the library board as well. So you guys are a family of service, it seems. Councilman Brennan.
I totally forgot, but I don't really know your background, so I didn't ask you the conflict of interest question.
So
do you have anything?
I have a metal fabrication business up on the hill behind the Lions Head warehouse. I essentially build race car cages and things like the utility drop box out front, that kind of stuff. The library box.
Yeah,
I'm working on diligently. I told Shasta I'm locking my gate so I can finish that project. I don't have any current conflicts of interest, but as those arise, I take those judiciously.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve Scott Harjo to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Take the vote. Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Garvey?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Welcome aboard.
No, I'll have to get you in touch with my son-in-law. He races a lot of race cars and dirt tracks and whatnot. And
fantastic.
He's always bending stuff and beating them out to reuse them to wear. So
we're only clean for the first race.
We will now recognize persons in the audience. You have 3 minutes if you want to come and talk.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none. Final comments, Council?
This was pleasant. I think it went well.
Mr. McGee?
President, Council, thank you guys for taking your time tonight to step up and...
But to take care of planning and zoning stuff that should have been done by then, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for going to 2 spaces per unit. I thought that was really critical for
Answered
the
your
future.
questions okay today, and patient with me, thank you.
I believe in ordinances.
Yeah.
I think you guys